The Wholesome One loves his hashtags, and we're not bringing back the live squad and the rewatch squad, even though those are awfully important tonight. There's a hashtag that takes precedence. Here it is. Highsmith to the U. We'll let the Wholesome One explain what it all means as one of the legends of Miami football has come home. Welcome into Miami Hurricanes live right here at the Voice of College Football. And there's the Wholesome One himself.
Wow. What's up, Mark? What's up, Canes family and Canes haters alike? Welcome. This is what? Miami Live episode 2000? Who knows? 249 since Mark has been counting. And it's a good day. It's been a really nice 48 to 72 hours and a really nice, I would say, 6 months for the Miami Hurricanes fan base. Now, again, I do have to preference all of this by saying we do have to win this upcoming fall and then for the falls moving forward. And we will get into a couple of the games because the announcement of the times dropped today. So today is going to be a good show. Let's put a smile on our face and let's get after it, baby.
From the top, everyone, Seattle Seahawks scouting executive ALONZO HIGHSMITH has accepted a football position. It is the general manager of football operations at the U.
There it is. Well, I tell this story because I'm not really a boastful person by any means. I don't like it. Don't mind the spotlight, but I don't like talking about myself. But in this moment, I'll be a little boastful. So January 4th, 2020, I take you back. Miami had recently just lost probably one of the worst seasons as far as who we lost to in that season. In recent Miami Hurricanes history with losses to, a 4-point win to Central Michigan at home for the home opener. A loss after upsetting or beating Tallahassee and keeping that streak going a couple weeks, and Louisville looking like we got everything together, and Pittsburgh. I mean, we go back to holy ground and lose to the Florida International Fighting Golden Panthers, led by Butch Davis. They went on to not win another Division I game for the next 2 seasons. But they can always say, Anthony Jones, the running back who is a blood brother of Dalvin Cook and James Cook, who are, one was a former Miami commit who went up to Tallahassee, one called our program trash and went up to UGA. And now Alex Jones could say he was the other guy who was left out, who went to FIU and ran all up and down the Miami Hurricanes defense to their biggest win in school history and arguably the worst loss for the University of Miami. Then we followed that up with a couple weeks later into the December, go to the La Tech Who Cares Bowl, and we lose to La Tech. A couple days go by, and I'm on live, and at this point, I was an undergrad, my senior year, and I'm watching, and I'm like, you know what? Instead of coming on live and beating a dead horse, can we talk about some solutions? What are some of the things that we can do, whether it be as fans or whether it be YouTubers or media, to try to help this program move in a different direction? And it really started with who we were going to hire to bring in those doors. And I came up with the hashtag. And the hashtag you all see right there, hashtag Highsmith to the U. And I said on that live, we've done plenty of other hashtags. Hashtag fire this person, hashtag this, hashtag that. Let's make a hashtag that we can get behind as a University of Miami fan base that can help us, that's positive, that gets something going. To my complete, I had like 200-300 people on, but it flowed and it boomed. And former players and not current guys, but a bunch of people got on to this hashtag Highsmith to the U thing. And there was a bunch of rumblings, and it was kind of going, and rumors were flaring. I mean, other YouTubers hopped in, and it really blew up. 2.5 years later, after there was plenty of conversation, there was a bunch of trying to bring him on, and him not want to be a part of the previous staff and be anything attached to what was going on with the previous athletic department. But then Coach Cristobal comes, someone that you know personally, Mark. I have been wailing on the wall for bringing him in around that same time that I came up with the hashtag. And I said, give us Coach Cristobal and bring in HIGHSMITH. And this program will be serious once again. Takes off to the stratosphere 2.5 years later on May 25th of 2020. Official to the University of Miami. Former third overall pick, former All-American, national champion, the creator of swag, ALONZO HIGHSMITH, officially signs to the University of Miami. Wow. Just wow. And you know, for the haters in the chat, I get you. I understand. I get Oregon, dude. Hey, it's all good, man. You'll be bitter for a while. I understand. I would be a little upset too. But let us have our moment. Let us live in the moment, because eventually it is going to be about playing football. But right now, it is about laying the foundation for building a great program moving forward, not just in 2022, but you look back in 2025 when someone else is sitting in my spot talking about how Miami is doing well and they're winning football games, and they created a great foundation for themselves that they now can springboard off of into championship conversation. Exciting. It's exciting. It's amazing. Last time I'm on, Mark, we talked about $100 million dedicated to Miami Hurricanes football facilities. Now I'm on talking with you, and ALONZO HIGHSMITH comes to the University of Miami by way of the Seattle Seahawks over a century in the scouting departments, whether it's with the Green Bay Packers, whether it's with the Cleveland Browns, whether it was with the Seahawks. He won a championship everywhere he was except for the Cleveland Browns. Man, yes, you're right, Falcon RX. You're going to get a different H1H today, partly because I just left the gym. But besides that, you're going to get a different hype level, because a lot of people talk about the product that happens on the football field come September through January. What I'm here to discuss with you is what's going to be happening building these young men and building a great football factory and putting the things together to really be able to give you a great product on Thursday and Saturday nights. And if you ever do make it to a national championship on a Monday night, which doesn't make any sense, but whatever.
So I'm definitely familiar with ALONZO HIGHSMITH as a Miami Hurricane on the field and an NFL player. Getting familiar here, I knew that he was in a couple different front offices. So it's the past 2 years in the Seahawks front office, most recently holding the title of Senior Executive Advisor to the General Manager. Cleveland Browns Vice President of Player Personnel in 18 and 19, and previously spent 19 seasons in the Green Bay Packers scouting department, where he worked closely with current Seahawks GM John Schneider. That's a lot of NFL experience.
A lot. And Mark, it goes even so simple as being able to teach young men how to carry themselves on social media, being able to teach young men how to carry themselves in media training, how to look, how to sound, how to carry yourself like a professional. What are certain things that these scouting departments are looking for in your film evaluation? Why not get it from the horse that has done it? I'm not comparing Coach Cristobal with our situation to what's happening up in Tuscaloosa, but you look at Tuscaloosa. What happened was the Nick Saban comes from the NFL, and then you magically see his teams take a different trajectory, and he continued to revamp after he looked at what the NFL wanted and what they are drafting and how your players need to be. You know, you're not just a 275-pound Donta Hightower middle linebacker. They don't make them like that anymore. Then he moved to the Reuben Foster, where they're 6'1", but they're 212 or 218, and they can fly and still hit you. Okay, how do these young men transition themselves into being professionals, both on and off the football field? And how do you represent yourself? How do you put yourself in the best position to be drafted? And that, why not, should come from the horse's mouth. Someone who did it for older and longer than a lot of these young men have even been alive. He's been in the National Football League and scouting young men and scouting grown men to go on and be champions.
Impressive. Impressive. Falcon Rex, appreciate the super sticker in addition to super chat. Thank you for being here once again. And bring those comments and questions in. All right. Yeah, so how do you really interpret his role? I don't know if Mario Cristobal got into it. I didn't see any of the news conference nor read that deeply into it. I don't know if he got specific about it. He used all the typical introductory kind of language about what he's going to bring to the table. But in terms of the nuts and bolts of the position, do we have a good handle on that?
No, I just know his title is General Manager of Football Operations, which I basically believe that, again, just my interpretation of what he's saying, similar to basically being a right-hand man to Coach Cristobal and being able to be another set of eyes that Coach Cristobal can't be and someone else at the staff, just certain things that they can't see. I think it's a newer position. It could be at some of these elite programs that we know nothing about, just like chief of staff. People thought Miami had been a chief of staff. No, if you look at some of these elite programs, they have had chiefs of staffs before. It's just, and also Miami had a chief of staff before that, who became our defensive line coach once one of our defensive line coaches departed for the NFL. Again, I think it's mainly going to be him helping as far as football operations. It could even be just sit there and watch film, evaluate film, be able to evaluate film before the staff gets a chance to step into it. Maybe not for game planning, but self-evaluation of film, being able to reevaluate practice. What are some of the things that's happening here? Also, being able to help get GMs and owners and head coaches to our combine, our pro day, and having that connection to the NFL and being able to invite them and have Miami be a hub again of people, head coaches and owners want to be down in Miami, of course, during that time of the year in early January, where some of those other places are a little colder than Miami will be. And they could come down to Coral Gables and be in our indoor practice facility and walk around our campus and walk around our facilities and see that kind of stuff. I mean, this three-headed juggernaut of Coach Mario Cristobal and ALONZO HIGHSMITH and Dan Radakovich, man. Telling you, Mark. I'm telling you, Mark, it's about to get good, Mark. It's about to get good.
Okay.
Ready.
All right. We will see starting the first Saturday of September.
Absolutely. Yep. Against Bethune-Cookman. We got you.
And I will not be surprised if it gets good because I'm on board with the coaching hire. I'm on board with the staff hires on the coaching staff. I'm on board with this hire. I don't see any way that you would have to be a complete moron or a Miami hater who refuses to just reason with logic to point to any of those hires and say that they weren't good hires.
Absolutely. And like we've said before, Mark, we have to go out here and yes, we're laying a great foundation. And someone said, well, does this equate to you guys finally winning the ACC? I'm hoping. I'm hoping. And it may not just be this year. Again, this ain't the NFL where it's free agency, y'all. Okay? These young men are going to be able to finally be coached and be a part of, as the Southerners would say, a program. I would say a program. It's a soft A if grammar is ever taught, but grammar isn't taught in some of those pulled up countries. Anyway, it's just beautiful, man. It's a great thing. It's a great thing to see a bunch of the former Miami, not even University of Miami alum, but just Dade County high school coaches getting opportunities to come on and be a part of our staff. Coach Roland Smith Miami Northwestern and Miami Central, and of course he is a Miami Hurricanes. I love him. He played with Coach Cristobal. But anyhow, he has an opportunity, and now he's on staff at the University of Miami as head of high school relations for the University of Miami, not just the football program, but University of Miami athletics, being able to connect and give back to our program and to our community and to the communities that have fed into us in Dade and Broward County, fed the athletes into the university that has helped this university build their $1 million buildings and build their great schools that make it a university, was built on the back of these young men on our football field. And the great thing is we are giving back to that. So we have that coming in, Coach Radakovich, the A+ staff, or I would say A to A+ staff. They got to go out there and win games, but on paper it is an A+ staff, in my opinion. And it continues to work, and it continues to build. They're not out here talking. They're not out here doing a bunch of videos, and they ain't got people out here clotheslining, running into dummies that say 6 and 7. It ain't about props. It ain't about talking.
I never heard that one.
So the first week that Manny Diaz was our head coach, he built a ring in the middle of our indoor practice facility and had players running back and forth off the ropes, clotheslining and choke slamming dummies that said 6 and 7. Videoed it and then put it out.
He was the coach when they went 6 and 7.
Yeah. 7 and 6. 7 and 6.
Then next year, Mark Richt. Okay, the final Mark Richt season. Gotcha.
So
okay.
Yeah.
Well, yeah, we do have a couple of Oregon fans that are getting after it in the chat. Well, Mario Cristobal won a Pac-12 championship exploring with Ben. You should know that.
Hey, again, I don't think much can take this smile off my face. Unless we wake up tomorrow and Deion Sanders is the head coach at Tallahassee, not much is making me take this smile off my face when it comes to the University of Miami and our football program. It's that simple.
Falcon Rex, yes, I will move the Miami helmet for you in the super chat. It's going to take a super chat, I think, every show to move whatever helmet to the forefront, because I can't always position the helmets or know where they're going to be when we size down these shots. So where do you want this helmet? Right there? Does that work for you? I put it right here, so it was front and center when we started the show. So there we go. How's that?
Yeah, we can see it. We can see it.
Okay. All right. If I get too many more helmet comments here in the next few weeks, I might be clearing the whole shelves. I might just clear the shelves and be like, you know what? I'm sick of moving helmets around at everybody's requests. But
is it really a consistent thing? Are people really on you about that all the time?
Yeah, they are.
Well, I mean, if you know you got a live coming up, just put it in the view before you hit live.
Well, I do. But we don't always know what kind of camera angle it's going to be once.
Oh, that's a good point.
That's
a great point.
So, because all right, that's I think I'm going to do that. That will just push some buttons. I'm going to do that for about a week. I'm just going to clear. I think I'll do it tomorrow. I'm going to clear all the helmets out, and people are just going to go nuts.
I don't see why you should do that. I mean, I think it adds a great.
I just want to. I want to see the response. I want to see the reaction of people if I just empty the shelves and no helmets for a while.
Don't hurt our feelings, Mark.
Same content, just no helmets. No helmets. Then I don't have to hear. Well, I'll hear about it, but it'll just be different, and I'll get some amusement out of it. All right. So we got Chris here. Go Canes. How's Canes Nation doing? How's Mark? Wholesome one. No D and Rogers doing great. Great to be a Hurricanes. Alonzo Highsmith is here.
He's here. He is. He is. So, Mark, for you, I'll ask you, when we talk about these off the field additions, in your mind, as someone who is, as best as you can, objective, how important are some of these off the field hires in your opinion?
Well, this guy, this resume is ridiculous.
Right.
Alonzo Highsmith. So if you were getting that resume without the connection to Miami, I would still be applauding, saying that's a solid hire. That's somebody who, wow, the more college football becomes like the NFL with player movement, with roster maintenance, with a lot of other things, then that's another top flight mind and knowledge and experience base. But on top of that, as we've talked about with Mario Cristobal, I do think that there is, now it's not always the answer because guys have come back to their school for whatever reason it didn't work out. But most of the time, you marry that kind of experience and knowledge and expertise with having a passion for the school, the team, the program, the product on the field. Absolutely. That's an amazing hire. Charlie Strong still floors me as an amazing hire at the linebacking coach position. That guy can coach defense as well as 5 or 10 other guys in the country as a defensive coordinator.
And he's just linebackers, Mark. And that's it.
And
you got like 6 guys.
That's where you need him.
So that's it.
And that's where you need him.
Yeah. Yeah. And that, it's hard not to get, uber excited for it, to be honest with you.
No, I get it. I understand it. Absolutely.
And you just don't see how something like this can equate to some 6-6 kind of season, some 7-5 first year head coach kind of season. And that's why I've been I'm confident, always will be. But you try to be a little careful with it because, being humble is probably the best route. You can be confident in yourself and confident in your program, but they still have to go out here and get it done. And I'm confident in the work that I know that they're going to have to put on the football field to win. Okay, and to be able to start for us. Long are the days where you could just walk in and say, I'm so-and-so 5-star, I'm the corner, and I'm starting because I'm the number 1 corner in the nation. There's nothing you can do about it. With that attitude, you'll be in the portal and you can go somewhere else and be blessed, have a great life. Or long are the days of us in the media having to come on and beg and plead for us to please stop with the whole 3-star U crap. Please go get and recruit some 4 and 5-star. Like, give some effort because there were very, very open recruitments where, and stories have come out now. DK Metcalf, who was a top 10 wide receiver in the country. Dalvin Cook, of course. Like, it's been plenty of stories that have come out recently of the previous staffs, not just Manny Diaz, for those of you who feel like I complain about Manny Diaz all the time. Not just Coach Manny Diaz. This happened under Coach Richt, okay, in 2016, where DK Metcalf reached out to our recruiting department and they said, well, you've been committed to Ole Miss for 2 years. We're not going to waste our time. And he's openly telling them, if you commit to me, I'm going to come. I'm going to commit if you commit. If you commit to me and recruit me and come after me, I will go there. Nope. Just flat out said. So long are those days where we feel scared or we feel like our brand or our U isn't good enough to be in the same conversations with an Alabama, with a Notre Dame, with an Oklahoma, with the USC, as far as in recruiting. All right. Now, if you want to talk about on the football field, we are light years away from those people, but probably not USC, but definitely Alabama and Georgia, and even Notre Dame right now, who is a really nice program. And that's saying a lot coming from a Miami Hurricanes fan to be able to give Notre Dame their due respect. But we're finally no longer going to be fearful. We can step in the paint with the best. And if you just so happen to beat us, if you just so happen to beat us on the football field, you just so happen to beat us in the recruiting trail, we can look you eye to eye, man to man, shake your hands, jog to our locker room, and try to fix and work on ourselves. I could not say that for, I would say, at least the last 12 years. It would seem like, whatever. Okay, cool. Hey, come on, somebody. Don't do it. Y'all don't get me fired up. I'm on Mark Rogers TV. I'm trying to be respectful. I'm trying to be very cordial. See, I got on my nice. Whenever I pull this out, Mark, it's big. I don't know if you noticed that. If I pull out the sideline quarter zip, $95. Just $95 right
beautiful.
Here. Whenever I pull this out, it's some news. Okay, it's some news that dropped. Whenever I pull this one out. So I appreciate all the nice compliments on the shirt. Trust me, they know how to break $100 real fast on fanatics.com. Oh, man.
Yeah, it's a good look. I agree with that. I'm right there with the chat on the look. But would I have noticed that? I'm not the one to notice something like that. No, that goes right by me.
But yeah, man, it's I'm just happy, Mark. I'm happy because it's, again, we got to win. But I'm happy to know that we are no longer going to back down and that we're creating an environment for these young men and these coaches. Mark, hell, you know what? Let's call a spade a spade. Not only is it the right thing to do when you do it right by the young men, the elite football programs develop coaches too. They're able to make better coaches.
That's good.
What's that?
Yeah, I'm just saying that's a great point. That doesn't get talked about.
I mean, you talk about how they are able to get these coaches who could start off as linebackers coaches, then gradually go into co-defensive coordinator, then maybe if not at your school, get a chance somewhere else. That speaks volumes when people hire from within your program about what you are doing. Now, it's a little different with Miami, okay? They definitely get hired. People pull out of this so that Miami never becomes what we in the Miami Hurricane fans, not saying you, Mark, but we want Miami to be, and that's a contingent for, 4 straight year playoff appearance, or, 2 of those 4 years in the Natty, hopefully win one of them. That's what we want, okay, in the Miami Hurricanes fan base. But if they see an offense taking off, whoa, no, get that guy out of here. Hire the OC or the defense with Coach Manny Diaz when he was here the first couple of seasons when we were doing really big. Temple said, "Oh hell no, we want to roll that guy back in as a defensive coordinator." So we definitely get that happens to us a lot. But if we're really paying people the right way, to where, hey, you can get coordinator money to be a linebackers coach. We give you coordinator money if you're worth it to be a defensive line coach. You recruiting that well, we'll give you even more to make you stay. We'll throw another title in there, defensive edge rush analyst. That's another $200,000 just to keep you around. Okay, they will do anything to get that and to keep you around. And that, to me, is even more important than what we're going to be doing. Well, not more important. It is very important, similar to what we're doing in creating a great environment, a successful environment for these young men. Is also for the grown men and for the coaches, creating a great environment for them to get better, for them to grow, for them to learn how to become better men, better recruiters, better coaches, how to connect with young men on a different level. And that eventually leads to them being better on football coaches, having on football success.
All right. We got our man Tim, USC fan, and one of the many here that would love to see a USC Miami playoff game. Maybe we'll see it soon. Tim is asking for a prediction out of you on how many touchdowns Tyler Van Dyke is going to throw this season. Through 25 in 8 to 9 games last year.
Mark, some people gonna call me crazy.
Okay.
40.
Okay. Well, two
I
things
said
that are
it.
going to affect that. Two things would be if you get to an ACC championship game, there's an extra game.
Yep.
Get to the playoff, depending on a championship game, that's obviously, well, it's one extra game because anybody that just makes the playoff and loses, that's like a bowl game, one other game. So you can play anywhere from 12 to 15 games is what it comes down to. I think anybody that's reasonable knows that this team, it would be a shock to anyone that they don't make a bowl game. So there's one extra game. They should go to the conference championship game. You know, to the point that you were making a few minutes ago, Clemson is the most talented team and probably the best team in the conference. After Clemson, I think I'll give a slight lean to North Carolina State as probably being the second best team. But if you look at the recruiting rankings and size up the roster, they're not the second best team. Miami's the second best team.
You could argue if we're going off of recruiting, you could say North Carolina is slightly ahead of
threw
us.
them in. Yep.
Their 5-star percentage is a little ahead of us the last season to 2 seasons. Okay, so I would say Miami is either, because you know me, Mark, I'm going to take the film, I'm going to also take the recruiting and the coaching staff and put it together. I would say Miami is either third or fourth in that conversation. Of course, Clemson is still Clemson. Get this through the head of thick-head ass Miami Hurricanes fans. Until we beat these people on the football field, okay, they are still the creme de la creme of our conference. Okay, last year they dealt with injuries that were big time and still won 10 games. Let's not get that confused. Okay, and when they play Miami, they don't fear us. They don't care about all this loose. They don't care. Okay, their program has been rolling for about 7 years. Bro, now I would say about 10, if we're gonna be honest.
Yeah.
Going back to, I would say the first time I would say watch out for Clemson before I watched them in person play off Joey Bosa in Ohio State. Friends of the family was able to go to that game, even though I didn't wear Ohio State stuff, sat on their sideline. But anyway,
good for you.
When Clemson played Ohio State, I had to see them dot the I, which was really cool. They brought the band. I didn't think they would bring the band, but they brought the band. It was really cool.
They travel.
It was bomb. It was really, really nice. Really, really nice to watch. Anyway, watching Clemson play Ohio State and watching that great game and watching all that talent on the football field, I said, dude, they whoa. Because the year prior, they beat LSU in a big game. And I was just like, dog, this Clemson team is coming. Because every time we would watch them on national TV, Tallahassee would beat them. So they would be out the conversation. And then they'll get to the end of the year and they'll lose to South Carolina. So they're out the conversation too. So it's like, who is this team? But I would say probably about the last 10 years, 9 to 10 seasons in a row that they have been ahead of the University of Miami. That does not just change in one off season. We have to continue to build. And when that game comes, and we get a chance to play them when we freaking play them. But before then, Mark, we got plenty of very important games before we get on a football field with Clemson. Of course, you got, you know me, the coach and me, I'm going to say the first game of the season, don't cut me, we got to play each game. But the media in me is going to say North Carolina has to, Texas A&M is important. I get that. I get all the hype about Texas A&M. But you want to talk about running the ACC Coastal? You want to talk about beating the team that even when they were like 2-8, we beat them by 7 points when we were 8-0 and the number 2 team in the country? A team that Butch Davis has put into their DNA, excuse my French, F Miami, like they play that way. They always play the University of Miami tough. Okay, they have, it's a certain energy in them when we're on the same football field as them that they want to kick our ass. And they come to play that way. Even last year, I mean, if you watch the third and fourth quarter as like a non-biased fan, you're like, whoa, what a game. the first half was trash. I mean, they were kind of kicking our butt. But then that second half, man, it was back and forth and TV and Howell and TBD and Howell. It was a good game. And it came down to an interception that just didn't go Miami's way. All right.
So like a 45-42 game.
I mean,
something like that.
Back and forth.
Mac Brown's 3-0 against Miami, right? At North Carolina?
Yes. The last time we beat them, I would say, what would that be? 2018? I think that was Larry Fedora's last game there, yeah. Because Larry Fedora was in line for the Miami offensive coordinator job the next season in 2019, but Pete, the HR department, didn't want Fedora on the field because he had made some comments about player conditioning and being soft and that kind of stuff. So they said no to him. So,
and the last time Miami was better than Clemson, it wasn't because Miami was that great. It's because Clemson wasn't that good. So 2011. So Clemson won the ACC in 2011. That was the year that they went to the Orange Bowl and Geno Smith just tore them to shreds.
Correct.
And then they went and got Brent Venables that fixed the defense. The 2012 team you're alluding to, that was a great game against LSU in the Peach Bowl. And that was an LSU team that just went to the BCS championship game and had an all-time great team the year before. Now they lost some talent, but they were low. Dabo Swinney will say to this day, the two games that gave him confidence about this Clemson run were the two games that you stated, the LSU game and the Ohio State game. That Ohio State team that they beat in the Orange Bowl won the national championship the next year.
Yep.
They beat two serious teams right there. And they've owned the conference ever since. I was just curious here when we were talking about recruiting and talking about North Carolina. So the 22 class was obviously the one Manny Diaz was responsible for to a certain extent. Mario came in and sealed it. So that was 13th in the country. Mm-hmm. The one that just came in here in 2022 that are going to be freshmen on this team. The 21 class, let's give Manny Diaz some credit here. 11th rated class in the country, 2021. It's a nice class, right?
Right.
Okay.
I would agree.
2020. So 2020. So that was still a Manny Diaz class.
That was the COVID class.
11th in the country.
The 3-player overall, Cam Kinchins, Brashard Smith. Yeah, that was 2020.
You know what we're going to do sometime? Whether it's you and Cam or you guys separately, whatever it is, I want to go through all these recruiting classes. I want to go back to as far back as they go and have you run through them and talk about, how you evaluate them, 2 years later, 5 years later, 10 years later.
You could go back.
He did bring in 2 consecutive number 11 classes in the country.
Right. And
then the 19 class, which those guys are going to be seniors, right? In 22. Right.
Well, that was also
that's a Rick class, right?
We lost Coach Rick and then hired Coach Diaz right in between that. So that class, I understand why it was like 40th or something like that, because no one knew who the head coach was going to be.
17.
Okay, yeah, 17.
Number 17. And then I don't know how many of these guys are still around with COVID and all that. There's a lot of guys sticking around 5th, 6th, 7th year guys. But Rick's last class, his last full class, was a really good number 8 class. Who would be still around from that class?
Man,
it doesn't look like anybody.
Al Blaze Jr.
Yeah, he's in that class.
There's still some guys on our roster from
DJ Scaife's not still around, is he? He went in the draft.
Who?
DJ Scaife, is he still around?
No, DJ Scaife is still around.
Yeah. So he's in that class. That looks to be about it. Anyway, yeah, I would love to take you through those classes at some point. Mr. HD saying Mark Rogers finally a believer in the U. I want to set to everybody straight that thinks that I hate on this football program.
Mark, Mark, you done said some stuff, man. If
it was true.
Our program. If you want to go over the time that you have been covering our program, you've said some stuff about our program. Now, whether those things were true or not, that's a whole separate conversation.
They were true.
Now the next, now you just taking, the mitigative gall and just take shots at our program. It's pretty obvious.
No, I
It's
back
obvious.
it up. No, the one video that I think you're thinking of first and foremost, I'm going to credit almost every fan, 90% of the fans. I thought I was going to get slammed. So I was bracing to get slammed, but most Canes fans were very understanding of it. They said, "You're right." They took it very well. They took it like class individuals, almost everybody. But I was just stating facts. I was just basically saying this is what's been going on for the last 15 years. These are the facts. But to Mr. HD's point, when he talks about when I hear some of these comments about me being a hater, and that's not very often, so I'm not concerned about it, nor am I offended by it. But it happens once in a while. I picked this team to go 9-3 last year, and they went 7-5. The year before, I picked them to go 8-4, and I got slammed for picking them to go because everybody, 10-2 at the worst, and I'm picking them to go 8-4. They go 6-7. I've picked them to go better than they have every year.
Oh man. Woo. Oh man, Mark's like, I'm not having any of this crap. Hey,
so we've got,
like I said, it didn't change the fact that what you were saying were facts. Now, did you have to say any of that? Probably not. But it didn't change that what you were saying was factual, actual factual. Yeah.
So we've got Armando here, who says a lot of people are starting to talk about the team this year. Are we at least as good as 2 years ago, the Era Kings' first year?
Again, man, we got to go out there and prove it. I want to just flat out say yes. I think that this team is better than 8-3. And then, of course, all three of those losses coming in against people who were either equally as good as you or better than you. And two of them where it's not really close against Clemson and North Carolina, especially when you looked at North Carolina being on the same level as Miami by everyone else's stretch, and they couldn't wait that this was going to be the classic game that we've been waiting for, the second game in the ACC to give us something, because Notre Dame Clemson gave us that great back and forth game that Notre Dame ended up coming over top with that due to Trevor Lawrence being out and DJ Uiagalelei being the one that starts him. And then everyone else circles on their schedule. Miami, North Carolina. In Miami, Miami's rolling on a 7-game win streak, although they dropped one to Clemson. They're ready to go into this game. Just beat Tech on the road, so you see that they're not over. They're not a letdown scenario where they lose to Tech. Now it's not 2 ranked teams. It was 2 top 15. I want to say top 10 maybe. I would say top 15 teams at the most. I think Miami was 12 or something going in that game. Miami brings out the Miami Knights 2.0s. Even though it's the COVID season, it's the most fans at Hard Rock Stadium allowed there because, vaccine and all that kind of stuff. So it was built up to be this great thing, and Miami gives up the most points in school history and the most rushing yards in school history, which started the conversation about the Coach Diaz defense being dead. And Blake Baker went on to losing his job due to what happened in that one particular game. So, yeah, I definitely get that. Now, I look at this year. Could you argue that the same thing could happen where Miami beats all the teams they're supposed to beat, but the 2 teams on the schedule, which are either exceed them or on par in Clemson and Texas A&M, there is a chance that Miami does lose those 2 games. But even then, that's 10-2. All right. And then if Miami were to lose those 2 games but win every single other game, Mark, one of the biggest check marks that we have in this season is playing in Charlotte and being on the same field with either Wake Forest, North Carolina State, or Clemson. We would have that checked off. Second time in the 20 years we've been a part of the Coastal that we win it. The first time head coach wins it. Okay. And then that 10-2 would probably feel a lot better than 2017's 10-2, where we kind of cardiac caned our way through things. We probably would be dominating. And that's what you would want, is that a Miami team goes out and you're not in a not a thriller, but a back and forth fight with a freaking Virginia and a dog fight with Georgia Tech, especially when you turn around and you show the team that you could be by beating a Pitt on the road and then beating NC State at home, and you're trying to figure out which Miami team is going to ever show up. We never know. And that's always been in the DNA, at least for the last 15 years that I've been watching and studying this program. It's just been in our DNA to be very inconsistent and to not always show up prepared for the big game. And that, to me, is something that starts with coaching and it ends with preparation and leadership. And those are things that are going to be stressed from Coach Radakovich, from ALONZO HIGHSMITH to Coach Cristobal and his staff. Those are things that are going to be there. We are going to be prepared. We are going to be disciplined. This kind of program is going to build leaders. All right. And all of that stuff there, to me, at the end of the day, yes, we got to go out there and play football. But if you got that, you got leadership, you got high preparation, and you have togetherness and consistency, and then it's just up to playing football on Saturdays, I'm with the Canes all day.
So when you bring up that season of 2020, 8-3, really close game against Oklahoma State, but the 2 beatdowns against Clemson and North Carolina, this is when I would love to have a staff. Well, there's a lot of times I would love to have a staff, because I'd say, you know what, the Wholesome One and I are coming on this Thursday night. I need you to pick apart. I need you to go back in the archives and watch our show prior to the Clemson game of 2020 and, pick out some good sound bites. Because I would love to hear what we were saying, because I was pretty much bracing like, I think this is going to be ugly. So
I wasn't bringing the smoke, baby. I was talking big cash trash. Bring it.
I know I didn't flat out state it like that until I made my prediction, but so I'm not going to brag about being right that time, because when the North Carolina game came, and I'm looking right now because I was interested to see the rankings, Miami was 10 and North Carolina 17 going into that game. I went nuts about this game. I said, this is going to be a great game. This is going to be the best game of the weekend. This is going to be a phenomenal game. And you know what really caused me to it wasn't just 62-26. It was what you talked about. Because Sam Howell had a phenomenal season. His first 2 years at North Carolina were crazy good, 38, 35 touchdown passes, all of that. Like if somebody would have said Carolina's going to win this game 62-26, well, first of all, my reaction would have been, whoa, seriously?
Right. But then you would think he had to carve us up.
Yes.
And he was throwing it all over the field.
I would have guessed,
yeah.
He threw for 500 yards and 6 touchdowns. And, it basically picked on 2 corners and that was the game. No, like it was startling to see them get manhandled physically in that game.
Yep.
I didn't expect that.
I don't think anybody did, Mark. I don't think anybody expected that. And I don't think anybody and it wasn't even just manhandled. It was mainly scheme. And they knew that we didn't have, even if we did have a plan B, they had something for our plan B. Okay. And whether you move your 2-out technique a little bit, and now you move that linebacker over to be able to kind of work against your counters and your powers and your off tackles. Maybe you scoot your defensive end over a little bit more from a 5 to maybe a 6, get a little bit more out there so that when they step, he can be able to contain and get that offhand and then maybe force that back inside. But even when they did that, all they did was switch to power so that somebody is pulling out there. So then now the tackle comes down and goes to the linebacker. The backside guard knocks out that DN, and now it's nobody there. I mean, they had all the answers schematically. And it wasn't necessarily about being a raging bull and running in and just trying to knock people over. It was all about, you knew what I was going to do. You knew what my second plan for what I could do. You knew when I was going to do all out blitzes, so you threw fade routes against one-on-one coverage. They had us beat schematically and mentally. So that game was really, really tough, especially for the film evaluators like me. Still to this day, I couldn't do the film eval. I couldn't put it out there. I did not want my future and the things I would say about the staff to be out there, so I didn't put it out there. But man, that's why that game to me is eerily important. Psychologically, I believe our team has to get over that hump. Just like I felt like the 2016 team. They went and won the bowl game against West Virginia, but it still was a gnawing pain in their heart. They lost to Tallahassee. It does something to you when you finally get over the hump of a team that has your number. Okay, I look at Clemson. Clemson for years, it was either they would lose both games, South Carolina and Tallahassee. And they finally got over the hump of South Carolina. So then now the big bad Tallahassee. That was the early half of the 20 teams was they finally got over the old ball coach and Clowney and South Carolina. Then they get to the middle of the 20 teams and they still could not get over this hump of Tallahassee. To the point of even going like 11-1 some seasons because they just couldn't get over Tallahassee. And they finally got over that hump. And now they're on like a 6 or 7 game stretch of beating them consistently. Once Miami can get over the pain and be able to beat these people on the football field and put it behind us and close the door, I think we can really start to talk about owning the division. Before we talk about winning the ACC, let's own this division. Let's make sure that we're not just beating people on paper. We're not just beating people on 247 Sports or Rival or ESPN.com with recruiting. We got to get on that football field, whether it's in Chapel Hill or in Miami Gardens, and be able to handle these people on the football field.
All right, good stuff. There you go. Give me a lazy Susan to rotate the helmets. All right, let's find some comments here. Anything else going on? What else did we want to hit on? We wanted to hit on some of these game starts.
Oh, yeah. So a couple of the Miami Hurricanes games came out. I will pull it up for you here in a quick second. Excuse me. We had some late graduations, so I've been sending out congratulations to folks graduating. What a blessing that is.
Okay, I've got them here.
Okay, go ahead.
So we've got September 3rd against Bethune-Cookman. That's going to be an ACC network game at 3:30 Eastern. Week 2, Southern Miss, noon, ACC network. And then at Texas A&M, 9 Eastern. There's a 6 o'clock game on ESPN, so 9 Eastern, ESPN.
Whew. 9. Good
9.
See, now, Mark, I wanted, being biased, I wanted that game to be I wanted the Bethune-Cookman game to be at night. Now, I know after halftime, sun goes down, it'll look like nighttime when we're singing the alma mater at the end of the game after we win by 40. I get that. But if we were able to get that at night, it's the first time Coach Cristobal runs out of the smoke since the early 2000s as a grad assistant or mid 2000s as a grad assistant and tight ends coach, since in the old Orange Bowl. And I figure if you want as many fans, if we want to be able for that to be a picture of us, not 11,000, 12,000, we're talking about 30 or 40, 50. I mean, we get 80. It goes up to 80. We're able to start doing that 50 to 60,000 for a season opener, even though it be against the great Bethune-Cookman University, one of the best HBCUs and all of college academia. If we were able to get that at 8 p.m., especially because at Miami, man, it's hot. It's hot. And although the renovations has some shade for the first level and also the second level, it's a double-decker. if we were able to get that 8 p.m. kickoff, and I don't know if they could change it around or who happens to be playing at that time, but I really would have loved that because it really pushes a bunch of people out there to be there when it's that 8 p.m. because you spend all day, Mark, tailgating. You get up in the morning, get your Cuban coffee, all right? You go get your, pastelitos and your croquetas. You get all that throughout the day. And you get to the evening time, you get out there, it's about like 4 or 5. You finally make it out there, park where you want to park. They got the barbecues fired up and things of that nature. It's a really big thing. I know a lot of people may not know that because the running joke is that no one shows up to Miami Hurricanes games. But we do have a great tailgating that goes on there too. It's really beautiful what we get done when it comes together. So I was hoping it would have been at night, but whatever. It's 3:30. But this 9 p.m. kickoff game against A&M, market just got big. Just got bigger than I was hoping. See, I wish it was flipped. Give us 9 p.m. against Bethune-Cookman. Give us 3:30 against Texas A&M. Texas A&M, you talking about the night before they do the whole rock the thing, midnight. You got the Miami Hurricanes coming in, probably like 17th in the country, 18th in the country, somewhere in there. Coming in the SEC country, 9 p.m. Eastern Standard Time under the lights. ESPN 1, not 2. 1? Oh, man. Hope we ready, baby. I hope you got to have a squad going into College Station because their home field is. I don't even know if anyone on this roster has been on the road for as big of a venue or as big of a game on the road as this is going to be for Miami. I think they sell out all the time, especially night games at Texas A&M.
Oh yeah, Clemson.
Yeah, but remember it was during
20?
the COVID time, so I don't.
Oh yeah.
It was a percentage of people there. I know this time around it's gonna be back, and I'm hoping Miami shows up and it's a great game and that we can go back and forth and Miami comes out with a win in Death Valley. But you bet your bottom dollar that's gonna be a sellout because they didn't get a chance to see us last time when they put the hands to us in that second half there.
Yeah, the ACC network that day, they're not going to move this game off of 8 p.m. because that's the best day. Talking about the opening weekend, September 3rd, the ACC network showing Rutgers, BC at noon, then the Miami game against Bethune-Cookman at 3:30, and the 8 p.m. games, Louisville, Syracuse. It's a conference game.
Yeah, it makes sense. It will make sense to leave that.
Falconer, can the young men play to the level of the coaches?
I believe so. Because what's been happening, Mark, the last 6 months here, there's been a real detox, if you will, of really changing what's important to our Miami Hurricanes on the football field. The Gophers. Interesting. I've always wanted to play them in a bowl game. Anyway, it's really, really important what's been the change in the mindset of our guys. Yes, strength and conditioning. Coach Dave Philly, in my opinion, did a very good job, laying a great foundation for now Coach Aaron Feld and his staff to take and springboard Miami to a whole different stratosphere. But they laid a great foundation, being able to change our players from what Coach Rick had us as like these big, bulky, kind of slower builds to shredding a bunch of that body fat off, shredding a bunch of the bad over heavyweight lifting to really trying to shape our bodies up and get more shredded and more cut up, more veiny looking, more 2021 style players under Coach Dave Feely, who's also at Duke now. So shout out to Coach Feely. It's going to take more than just this. It's going to take a bunch of putting in the work. And that's what I'm happy about seeing what Coach Cristobal is talking about. It's always about the work. You can do the talking. We're Miami, so we're gonna run our mouths. But the big difference between the University of Miami football programs that you grew up hating, Mark, is that they did the talking and we did the winning on the football field. The University of Miami football team.
Who said I hated them?
What's that? What happened?
Who said I hated them?
Oh, I didn't know if you would catch that. My bad.
No. You're right. I did. I just thought that was funny.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know if I've ever said that on here. Yeah, I didn't care for Miami. No.
It's a lot of Midwest people don't. And I know you grew up rooting against us. It's okay. It's all right. You probably were very angry we beat Nebraska. So mad. I mean, just angry. You know, we just hope that you used good grammar.
Notre Dame. Michigan, Notre Dame, Miami. Those were the three teams I hated the most.
Good God. Hey, somebody screen record this. Because next time Mark says something about, I'm impartial. I don't know what
I am impartial.
Make sure y'all remember.
I'm a 15-year-old kid. That was a long time ago. I am impartial.
When'd you stop? When'd you stop hating Miami, Mark?
When they stop winning, I guess.
Damn. Wow.
Hate too many 7-5 teams. It's just
Make sure y'all record this, y'all. I'm gonna go back.
It's recorded.
Record this whole thing. Anytime Mark starts talking like, "Oh no, Miami's dead," I'm gonna bring this up. I'm gonna say he openly admitted to hating Miami. Sweet Lord, I got him. Gotcha. Anyhow, let's go on. Let's move on. They gotta, like I said, putting in the work, winning those big games. That was important. When Coach Cristobal was a part of Miami in the early 90s, later half of the 80s. And again, when Coach Butch Davis got here and he re-implemented that. Yes, I understand you're going to do the talking. I understand you're going to do the celebration. I understand you're going to do the DX crotch chop. But you got to be good enough. And you got to be winning to be doing that kind of stuff, because it just looks bad when you're doing a bunch of that stuff and you're down by 32. Okay, it doesn't do anything to you. You know, you go on the road and lose to Cal. You go on the road and you lose to BYU in some of those mid-90s seasons where you could have been in a championship game or could have been up there, but you weren't focused for 1 week in the season, and that's what happened. So, yeah, we got to do it. We got to do it. We got to be able to put that work. And then even more, I talked about it before, Mark, revamping this roster. And it's been happening slowly and over time, building, whether we're going into the Big 12, or we went into the Pac-12, or we went into the SEC, and bringing guys in and really revamping and reshaping our roster, because the roster over the last 4 or 5 years, especially depth-wise in the fronts, has been very shaky. And we've had to pump up the roof on some of these 3-star D tackles and guards who aren't really that good. And we really revamped that and switched a bunch of our players around. Even to the point of today, a couple hours ago, Tyler Johnson, the kid brother of former Miami great Jaquan Johnson, the free safety, hit the transfer portal today, which was our biggest inside linebacker. He's about 6'2", 6'3", 235 pounds, out of Miami, out of South Florida, Miami specifically. And it hurts when the hometown guys go, because I really thought he would be a great depth piece as far as special teams, running down on specials for us. But I'm always for young men doing what is best for them, because for generations, coaches could always do what's best for them and tell you I love you and recruit the hell out of you, and then halfway through your sophomore season, buck to a whole different conference and maybe even a division rival, and there was nothing that the players could do about it. But now some of that power is in the players' hands, and they can go out and do what's best for them.
You're right. Exploring with Ben. We've got 85 likes. We've had over 500 people in the live stream tonight. So please hit the like button, folks. All right. We'll catch up with Falcon Iraq's. He just made a comment about, tailgate at the U is insane. Food from every culture.
It's beautiful. It's a beautiful thing, Mark, and that's what I would say is a great. Some people call it a melting pot, but I'm just going to call it a great family atmosphere. Is that you could be sitting with a Haitian-born American, a Jamaican-born American, a Bahamian American, and we all have their different spots, the different pits at the tailgating where they got different food. So it could still be boil, it still could be pork, it could be all that type of stuff, but it's made slightly different depending on which island we're going to. And of course, you have your Black Americans, you have your Cubans and Dominicans and South Americans. Again, like I said, all of them do some form of pollo, which is chicken, pork, or beef mixed with rice and chicken, just slightly different and varying spice levels. Got to be careful with that part if you're not good with spice. But it's really good to be able to make those rounds, and you get some sauce, you get some Jamaican patties and things of that nature. It's really cool, man, and it's and to see everybody in the orange and green and excited and ready for Miami to do big things. I do miss that about being home, and I do miss being able to be at a tailgate with them.
All right, Falconer X, I'm going to take your lead. I'm going to go contact Publix. He says it's statewide. They'll support us here. Okay, I'll give it a shot.
Publix is a Florida thing.
Yeah. Exactly.
You're based in Ohio.
Our channel.
Oh! Just giving them a call.
Yes,
Yeah, okay, gotcha.
Sponsor. Yeah.
Gotcha.
I will track down Publix. Okay.
Why not?
Give it a try.
They give out scholarships like crazy. So I wouldn't. They would love a tax write-off. So you reach out to them, Mark. You got it.
All right. Anybody else got anything before we say goodbye for the week? All right. Wholesome one. What do you got going?
We are getting back to a bunch of stuff back with the channel, a lot more active. Just had to take some time for myself personally, so I'm happy that I'm back rolling. We're doing Q&As every week on Mondays for my live. So what that means is the return of everybody's favorite piece of the channel, the whiteboard.
Nice.
So the key to the whiteboard that a lot of people may not understand is what I like to do is, of course, show you film. So if I can't write it down, I'll put up a link and get onto that. But on here, I'm able to break down plays and kind of give you a visual. I can even roll over the tall one and write and draw it on a big board like I did for you before, and really break down what's going on, whether it be scheme-wise and assignment, whether it's offense, specialty, offense, defensive line, big dude here, front sevens, linebackers, backs, things of that nature. And that's what we've been getting into. And so this past week, we went over the 3-3-5 scheme that Coach Steele is bringing to the University of Miami from Auburn. And on third downs, he goes with what's called a 3-1-7, which is basically a dime. You have a bunch of defensive backs on the football field, and you only have one linebacker. That's what that number is. So 3-1-7, you're talking about the people on each level. So the 3 are 3 down linemen. The 1 is 1 linebacker, and the 7 are going to be your defensive backs, just like a traditional 4-3, 4 down linemen, 3 linebackers. A traditional 3-4, 3 down linemen and 4 linebackers. So I've been doing a lot of teaching and explaining that kind of stuff. So we have that's been going on the channel, and whether it be film or whether with the trusty whiteboard and the color. Before I had black, you couldn't really see it. So now I got red and green and blue markers to be able to really show you what's going on there. So that's mainly what's been going on. And with the Q&A, not only am I able to break down the plays for you, people can ask about what. Another thing that was happening, people are asking, what are the coaches doing now? What are some of the rules? What are the NCAA rules as far as what they can and cannot do? Is it a dead period? Can you have people on campus, players that are going to be coming in? We had our summer session A that just passed earlier this week, where summer classes had started at Miami. We have summer session B, which is in the middle of June, June 15th. So that kind of stuff there. So we've been kind of going after it and just breaking it down, and not too many people have been there, and that's all right because it is the off season. But the hashtag rewatch squad always shows up and is always strong. So it could be one person, it could be 1,000 people in there. I'm always thankful that people are here and that they care about what I got to say. So that's always and will forever be a blessing to me.
Falcon Rex looking for a turf call-in show. That's a bit of an inside joke. Falcon Rex calling me the other night. Yes, there was a big controversy about turf, and we had an irate caller a few months ago that was upset about a Colorado game and blaming the turf for why Colorado lost one of the games. And Falcon Rex has taken off on that for a few months now. That yeah, we got a Colorado fan who was upset about the turf cost us the game.
Is that the same dude that said, according to him, he could explain why Colorado was supposed to win the championship every year or something like
that? He's got some interesting takes. One is that there's a belt championship. Have you ever heard of this?
Yes. The same guy. Yeah, we talked about
guy.
Well, okay. Before we get out of here, Mark,
sure.
I wanted to ask you this, and I want to ask you on the spot because I know if I give you time, you will have too many other scenarios. I don't know if you're a big Marvel or DC guy, but before I got into football,
okay,
the two things I was very, very knowledgeable of as far as reading and studying was, of course, my religion with Christianity, being a Southern Baptist, raised in Southern Baptist culture. And the second was comic books and reading up on that. That's how I was able to learn how to really articulate myself because my dad didn't know anything about what was going on in there. And I would just break down what was going on in the TV show or on the movie to him. And the whole time he's just like, yeah, He didn't give a damn. But it was really cool. It was the early stages of my teaching and coaching. Anyway, there's a series that's out right now that's called Marvel What If, Disney Plus.
Yeah.
In this, it's a long, like 82 series comic of different things that would happen ever so slightly in different universes out of the 872 different universes in the Marvel universe. They have different things. So in one of them, it would be like, what if Steve Rogers gets knocked out and then Peggy Carter jumps in and becomes Captain America instead of Steve Rogers, stuff like that. So if I were to ask you, you can give me five alternate universes for Mark Rogers, 5 college football what ifs. Could you give me an answer?
Oh, man. Okay. The first one I want to see, what if Nick Saban stayed with the Miami Dolphins?
Ooh. Okay, so let's expound on that. What do you think would happen?
As you well know, most people believe that if Drew Brees, who failed a physical with the Dolphins, would have been traded from the Chargers to the Dolphins, and this is before he exploded and became a great New Orleans Saints quarterback, that Saban would have had his quarterback. Mm-hmm. And for as much as he gets knocked for having a bad 2 years at Miami, it wasn't an awful 2. He went 8-8 and 7-9.
Right.
So if he's got Drew Brees, maybe he stays with the Dolphins. Rich Rodriguez was on the radar to get the Alabama job at that point. He had just had the remarkable 07 and 06. So Saban's first year was 07. So Rich Rod, anyway, we don't know who would have gotten the job for sure. But anyway, Nick Saban's not at Alabama. So there's my first, that if Drew Brees.
I just wonder how different, maybe Urban Meyer is to Nick Saban of college football. He's running.
He's at, oh, well, yeah, maybe. Okay.
Because he's at Florida. Because remember,
he's at Florida at that point.
That stopped, and then we all know your flagship program until Miami has now got their facilities up, has been the Florida Gators in state, especially with being in the SEC and the financial that they get from being in the SEC and also having some really nice teams. Well, if you talk about Coach Urban Meyer, who's all about recruiting, and he's just running things, and there's no one in the SEC to stop him, how many championships does Urban Meyer have? How different is Urban Meyer viewed in college football?
Yeah. So that's my first one. My second one, I don't think it's going to push many buttons here, but it's still a huge college football narrative. But if there would not have been a tattoo gate at Ohio State in 2010. So if nobody's familiar with that, you had Terrell Pryor, the Ohio State quarterback, and you had 4 other offensive players who were suspended, and they never played. None of them ever played in it. Well, I can't say that for sure. But anyway, they were all suspended for the 2011 season.
Right.
Well, Pryor moved on to the NFL. He became a supplemental draft player in the NFL. He was a great college quarterback, never turned into an NFL quarterback, turned into a wide receiver, but a great athlete.
And made a Pro Bowl at wide receiver, too.
Yeah, with Redskins, Raiders, and you had Ohio State miss their leading rusher, leading receiver, an offensive tackle who made the NFL. Anyway, so that ripped apart their team and got Jim Tressel fired. Now, people forget how great Jim Tressel was. He went to a BCS bowl game every year he was at Ohio State. They lived in the top 5 while he was there. So
didn't they lose like back-to-back natties too?
Yeah.
Like Florida and LSU beat them back-to-back, right?
Yes. Yep. 06, 07. But, they were going to a BCS bowl game every year. And he only lost a handful of games while he was there anyway, because I think that gets overshadowed because then Urban Meyer got the job and he took off from there. But, we're in this NIL era, and that would have been absolutely nothing. And it was ridiculous at the time. Now, they did break the rules. Those were the rules. But still, when you think about it in light of what's going on today, that some college football players traded, some of their awards to get tattoos, and that gets their coach fired and suspends all them for the season. And the whole thing derailed Jim Tressel's career, and he never coached again. And he's rolling along, his previous season, 12-1, number 4 in the country, win the Sugar Bowl. He's having those kind of years every year. So I would like to have seen what would have happened with him. And Ohio State football wouldn't have changed much. So it's not a great what if, because they just kept rolling along. Obviously, Urban Meyer took over a year later. All right, that's 2 for me. Number 3, what if?
I got one for you to see if you'll like this.
Okay.
What if Colt McCoy doesn't get hurt in that national championship against Alabama?
Yeah, I would like to have seen. I still think Alabama somehow finds a way to win that game, but yeah, you're taking Colt McCoy's still playing in the NFL. So, they missed him a lot. He was he's not been a great NFL quarterback by any stretch, but he was a great college quarterback. He was a top 3 or 4 quarterback in the country and got hurt on the first drive of the game. Yeah. Absolutely. What else do we have?
I mean, I don't want it to be an all Nick Saban one, but what if Nick Saban doesn't leave for the Dolphins job and stays at LSU?
Stays at LSU. Yeah.
And see, to me, I wonder what if, because it's like, does he go on to win all these championships if he hadn't learned from his experience in the NFL?
Yeah. And when I go into a what if, I'm being kind of making it difficult on myself, because
right.
I don't want to just say, what if a different team would have won a championship, or a different team would have, I want it to be a scenario like the Nick Saban with the Drew Brees scenario. So, what else happened that next season was that LSU team that won the national championship with Les Miles. They are still the only team since the BCS era to win a national championship with 2 losses. So they got into the championship game based on a series of ridiculous upsets that catapulted LSU to the game with Ohio State in the BCS championship game. If 2 things happened, number 1, if LSU doesn't get the benefit of all these other upsets that are happening around the country, they don't make the national championship game, number 1. Number 2, it got leaked that Les Miles was talking to Michigan. Michigan had had Lloyd Card stepped down, and Les Miles is a Michigan guy, played at Michigan, wanted the Michigan job. He would have left LSU to go to Michigan, but he made the national championship game and stayed at LSU. That would have changed things as well. Les Miles goes to Michigan starting in 08. Who knows?
I mean, of course, I have a bunch of Miami ones, but you know.
Well, yeah.
Okay,
let's lay it on the line, and I'll be very upfront with this. If the flag doesn't get thrown in the Fiesta Bowl, now obviously that turns into a win for Miami,
right?
But does that so that changes the championship there? Obviously, Miami wins the 6th championship. Now that's indisputable. That was the game. But does that affect anything going forward? That's the big question.
That's the kind of conversations we've had privately. It's like, okay, yeah, now instead of 5, we got 6, and you could add one more in a classic game against Ohio State, and you know that's really cool. But does that make the administration buy in still, or you know, are we still dealing with that? You know, are the boosters and the athletic director are they still with the finicky stuff? Because does it just push on the inevitable by 3 seasons?
Well, let me ask you this. In all these coaching hires, since Miami's fallen from, you know, that status, were there any other coaches that were close to getting the job that would have done a better job?
Yeah. Now, one of mine is college football what ifs. What if? So at this time, an NFL coach who coached for a team that a lot of people view as the same, if not similar, the way they're treated in the NFL, the way the Miami Hurricanes are treated in college football, the Oakland Raiders. Their longtime head coach, John Gruden, was in line in 2010 for the job at Miami. What stopped that from happening was the administration got salty because he wanted his younger brother, Jay Gruden, who went on to be the head coach for the Washington team, to be the coach in waiting, be his offensive coordinator, and within 2 or 3 seasons be the coach in waiting, and he would take over the Miami Hurricanes. They got salty about that and decided to go in a different direction. The person they hired was the illustrious Al Golden. So there's that. That was a legit thing that was actually happening, and it's well documented that was the reason why things did not work out.
And who knows who could have been in the running when Manny got the job, because they didn't look for anyone. They just, boom, hired him, went and got him.
Yeah, I mean, I think anybody and everybody would have loved the Miami job. I think the Miami job is a great job. I'm always going to be honest about that, especially now that
I think it's a great job too,
and all that stuff, of course. But I've always felt like people view this Miami job as very, very high allure. So
I told Cam a couple of weeks ago, I don't think it was our show, I think it was with Cam. I said so with Mario Cristobal going from Oregon to Miami, and Oregon's a great job. Oregon's a top 15 job in the country. But I told Cam, I've got no ties to either one. No ties to either one. But I'm taking, so Mario Cristobal does. So he had that incentive. Now, if he was just a neutral person who grew up in Kansas, I don't know if he would leave Oregon to go to Miami. I don't know. I could see reasons why he would. I could see reasons why he would just be like, no, I got things going well in the Pac-12 here in Oregon. I'm going to stay here. I don't know what he would have done. But obviously, his heart's with Miami. But if I'm a guy from Ohio, if I'm a football coach and I could choose between Oregon and Miami, I'm going to Miami. As long as I knew that the administration was going to support me and give me what I needed to win. I'm going to go there because I'd rather live there. And number 2, because I'd rather recruit the football players in Florida.
Absolutely. I agree. So I said, of course, the non-flag thrown, no fumble against Notre Dame, which was not a fumble, but uh, with Gary, who goes out and extends the ball hits the ground, and then the ball can't cause a fumble. But like Coach Jimmy Johnson said, if you leave it in the hands of the referees in big games, they're never going to lean Miami's way. It's just that simple.
Okay, don't hold me to this because it's been forever since I watched that game. But I do think Miami was given a gift on a touchdown reception in the corner of the end zone that wasn't caught in that same game.
See what I told y'all?
What?
Different tack. I bring up Ohio State, and you bring up the fact of a non-penalty called against Miami that arguably should have been called the PI. Okay.
Oh, there was. If you go back and watch the previous Ohio State drive at the end of regulation, Ohio State's up by a field goal. Try to watch it objectively. Ohio State's got the ball. There's about 3 minutes left in the game. They're up a field goal. There's like a 3rd and 5. They throw an out to Chris Gamble. Number 1, he catches the ball in bounds. Number 2, he's held by his jersey. And they called him out of bounds. Plus, they didn't catch the PI. Ohio State punts, and whoever returned it for Miami returned the ball like 50 yards to put him in field goal range to kick the field goal that sent the game into overtime. The Notre Dame play, again, my memory's a bit hazy on this. I'd have to go back and watch. We're going all the way back to 1988, and I've seen it since, but I'd have to go to the play that Miami caught the ball in the corner of the end zone. And based on my memory of the last time I saw that play, I thought it was pretty clear that the ball wasn't caught. Again, I'm going to look that one up, and I'll come back next week and either say, I don't know what I was talking about. I saw it wrong. I remembered it wrong. Or I'll say, go look at this play. The Notre Dame game in 88. I'll go give it a look. I'll try to find it. Should be all over YouTube.
Okay. So the fumble that's not a fumble that should have been called either down at the 1. I understand.
Yes.
Even his knee were down. So if you would have called it down, we had no problem. Down at the 1 yard line, knees fall first, and he leans forward, and then he extends the ball for the touchdown.
Yep.
And when he hits the ground, boom, the ball fumbles out, and they call it a fumble when his knee was down and the ball hit the ground, which should have been dead. But they called it a fumble, Notre Dame ball, whatever. Even the commentary screams bad call. The commentary also screamed bad call against Ohio State because I think it's more about when you call those calls.
Yep.
But, whatever. So those would be 2 of them from me. Of course, what if John Gruden takes the Miami job in 2011 after Coach Shannon? The other one I would say, number 4, is what if Butch Davis doesn't leave Miami in 2000 and he stays at Miami instead of taking the Cleveland Browns job?
Yeah.
And there's plenty more like petty ones I could say, like,
sure.
Right? What if Miami goes on a 10-year game streak against Tallahassee? I could do that, but
well, that you're kind of. I don't put that in the same category because you're kind of changing just games that were played. Not, you know what I mean? Like the fumble you're bringing up is bad. It's a bad call. If it was called right, what's going to happen? Right. First, it's just saying, changing a score of a game that was fair. You know what I mean?
I agree.
And different for me.
I guess I would say my last one would be, what if Jimmy Johnson didn't leave?
Oh, yeah.
But in my opinion, I think it worked out really well for him because he also went on to have great success for the Cowgirls. And he was able to get a bunch of Miami Hurricanes players drafted and put on those teams and help get them generational wealth. So that is a little bit more like, I just want to see Miami win, as opposed to, if I could really go and change that, because I think it worked out for everybody, what he did. So I would say those are my 5.
Now, if Howard Schnellenberger, and I'd have to go back and look at the history, I don't know what the history was and how close he came to not taking the job or going somewhere else. He had an NFL head coaching job before he was at Miami. So he wasn't coming up the ladder. He had been some places.
Right. So some people always say, well, what if Howard Schnellenberger didn't leave? But I figure that he was also very, very old. But Coach Jimmy Johnson was just getting into his and went on to coach another 20, 30 years. So I'm not saying if he stays at Miami for 20 or 30 years, but if he could have given us another 3 or 4 years, that would have been real nice to see. So
Interesting.
those are my five. Did you come up with anyone when I was in the middle of my soliloquy? Any more?
I was listening to you. I didn't. You know what? One I'll say, and I don't know that this is going to get a whole lot of support, but I do think that Mark Richt's a top flight coach, but I just don't think he had it once he got to Miami. He had one good season that really they should have only lost one game that year. They shouldn't have lost the Pitt game. They shouldn't have lost the Wisconsin game. But anyway, then had a really good recruiting class. I don't know how to phrase this that it's does him justice and it's phrased correctly, because a lot of bad things have happened to him health wise. I just, now knowing what's happened to him health wise since then, I don't think he was quite right.
Right,
So
especially
I'll
going
say it
back
this
and
way:
looking at it.
if Mark Richt was healthy, and if he was the Mark Richt of 5 years before, I think things would have been extremely different.
And that's who also was on that short list after Coach Randy Shannon left. And Coach Richter was open about that in when he took the job in 2016, is that it was multiple times that they reached out to me to see if I was interested in the job. I never had an interest in the job because I was at the University of Georgia, which was a better football program and everything was way better than what Miami had presented at any time up until then. So I guess you could say, what if he took the job after Randy Shannon in 2010, especially because they took his play calling away from him, which really made him angry to the point where he was definitely thinking about leaving. And I'm not saying maybe if he was going to take the Miami job, because, I mean, you could argue he's a Cane, but he spent even more time up in Tallahassee. And during that same time, Coach Bobby Bowden had stepped out and Jimbo Fisher had stepped in. So you could also have that same argument that maybe what if Mark Richt goes to Tallahassee? But just saying, what if Mark Richt takes the Miami job in 2011?
Because the Mark Richt, obviously, let's see, his first season was 2016 with Miami. The Mark Richt of 2012 is taking Georgia to that close to playing in the BCS championship. He basically had the best team in the country, or the second best team. You know, they were that good. And so that's where he was when he was on his game. So I just don't think he was there when he took the Miami job, or at least a couple of years into the Miami job.
Well, I would say this. I mean, this what if in these alternate universes, I think could be something great for you to take into the offseason, Mark, because I think you could make a whole series of this, especially because you could create what we call in the comic book, in the geek world, your alternate timeline. So you could mess around when you do, you could be like, okay, well, if we do this, then in this particular universe, then Urban Meyer, Nick Saban stays in the NFL, so Urban Meyer takes off. And then Lane Kiffin stays at USC. They don't fire him. And he takes off over there. And now you got Florida versus USC in a couple national championships. It can take off into its own thing and create these. And then I think that opens up multiple fan bases and fall in love with your timeline. And it gets really cool, man. I like the what if concept, especially if you have an open mind to be able to kind of take it out into maybe a season or two after you made this one alteration. And you could turn it into some videos, man.
Well, and I would be picky about it in terms of, see, some people will just bring up, what if we would have won that game instead of lost that game? No, there's got to be a convincing reason why, like a blown call, a player got, some freak injury, something like that, or just an odd decision or something like that. But you really got to think those scenarios through to do it right.
Yep.
Otherwise, you'll miss things and forget things, and because it sets off a chain of events.
Yep.
That affects all sorts of different things.
And one of them, I'll let the cat out the bag for one of them. I'm planning is what if the collision of USC and Miami? What if Miami does win that national championship in 2002 because USC starts to take off in 03?
Sure.
So what if instead of the University of Texas in that classic game in 05, what if it's the University of Miami and University of Southern California meeting together?
Well, I'm going to give you a self-serving one from that same 2005 season. Do you know who Texas came this close to losing to that season? Ohio State in Columbus. Ohio State was up by 3 or 4 points in the fourth quarter, and their tight end dropped a back of the end zone wide open ball, hits him right in the chest.
Touchdown
that would have given them a 2-score lead. And the way that game was going, not that the game would have been over, but a 2-score lead between those two teams. That Ohio State team was really good.
Right.
They probably would have beaten Texas. And then you've got a interesting decision by the BCS because Penn State was 11-1. Ohio State would have been 11-1. Who would have played USC? And it wouldn't have been Texas because they would have lost the head-to-head to Ohio State. But Vince Young brought him back and threw a touchdown with 20 seconds left. Or else Ohio State beats Texas, and Texas wouldn't have been in that game.
You see how it can grow? Because, I mean, in your parallel, maybe they actually do beat them. Maybe Ohio State beats Texas, and wow, what happens? And like I said, that's a little bit of a stretch to go all the way to 05. So, because USC went back-to-back, 04, and they lost 05, but they split 03 and then won in 04, right?
Sure, yep.
So what if instead of Oklahoma is who USC played in 03, right?
04.
04. Who was the 03?
Okay, 03, they went to the Rose Bowl and beat Michigan. LSU beat Oklahoma to win the BCS championship. Okay. USC won the AP national championship. There was a split 03 national championship.
Okay, so then they probably would run into each other in 04 then, because that 03 Miami Hurricanes team was still really good, but I think they lost for the first time in 3 seasons. They lost at Tennessee, I believe. That's when Kellen Winslow did the whole "I'm a soldier"
when Kellen Winslow went nuts. Yeah. And you just don't know if they win that game against Ohio State, how much better recruiting. You just don't know those sorts of things either.
And that's why I said but it's all gonna be Miami based. Of course, Miami wins and goes on to win 15 championships in my parallel universes because I'm a Miami Hurricanes fan. But sure. I think that would be really cool for someone like you who's had this vast knowledge and who has had these arguments with us, or debates, I would say, conversations with people who have arguments of Miami should have been in the Natty in 2000, when you can say, well, Washington should have been in there, and you're able to kind of make all these different parallels, and I think it would be cool. It would take a bunch of research, but just to throw that nugget out there, man, I think you would kill it.
I appreciate that. JR's throwing it out. I was going to say the same thing. In 2000, there was a 3-way tie of sorts between Florida State, Miami, and Washington for the other spot opposite Oklahoma in the national championship game. And the BCS system, being the BCS system, selects Florida State, even though they lost to Miami. So Miami fans, and I completely get it, say we should have been in the national championship game. I would argue Washington, they beat Miami, but certainly Florida State shouldn't have been there.
If anything, they just shouldn't have been there. If we have any argument, they just should not have been there.
Yes, and if you're just talking about who's the most talented team, Miami should have been in the game.
Right. Something as simple as, what if college football, you can even say since modern, what would you consider modern era?
Oh, my goodness. Well, you know what? I think you can agree with this. And I'm not going to tell you that I'm the brainchild of this, but somebody mentioned this to me years ago. And I said, well, this makes total sense, because I'm sure you've heard these kind of discussions where it all depends on the person's age when they think that modern football, if you're talking to a young person, shoot, they'll throw out like 2010,
Right.
and then you'll have all sorts of different years, and they're just arbitrary years. Like I have all sorts of people throw out to me, well, modern college football started in 1980, and I'll be like, there's absolutely nothing that was different about college football in 1979 than in 1980. But what did change the sport? Obviously, integration of black athletes. That's what changed the sport. So that didn't happen just in 1 year. Obviously, it depended on the school, but it was roughly in the mid to late 60s into the first few years of the 70s. So right in there. So maybe
let's say 1970. Would that work for you?
1970 would be fair.
What if now this is how it gets trippy, man. What college football what ifs? Mark Rogers. We'll throw your name in front of it, baby. MarkRogersTV college football what ifs series. I'm still waiting on you to do the MarkRogersTV All America list. I think. I'm telling you, man.
My own All America team.
Throwing these nuggets at you. I'm waiting on you to catch.
I did throw out Conference Players of the Year.
Yes, you did.
Yes,
you did.
Voice of College Football Conference Players of the Year.
And we love you for it. But I would say MarkRogersTV College Football What If Series, Episode 1. What if since 1960, the college football playoff, as it is right now, constructed 4 teams.
I love that.
Always existed since.
I'm all into that.
Mark, I'm telling you, dog, I'm giving it to you. You can.
That I can totally dig into.
What we say in our religion?
Dave, I respect people's opinions on this, but Dave, you're throwing out 1950, and that's just a year. It's just an even year. There's nothing that happened in 1950 that makes college football any different than it was in 1949. So that's why I argue these arbitrary years. The reason I'm stating what I'm stating is obviously I don't know what the black-white ratio is in college football, whatever it is in major college football, but obviously, regardless of what it is, 50-50, 70-30, whatever it is, it's substantial what changed in our culture and in this sport because we finally allowed what should have been taking place the entire time. That changed the sport. Other things certainly changed the sport, but you can't
like the forward pass.
Yeah.
That kind of stuff,
Yeah. Well, yeah. Then you're really, you're almost talking about like a completely different game at that point. That's just. But you're right.
As far because we could be talking about to somebody who's in their 80s who would say that was the biggest thing. Once you could throw them, but I'm not saying I'm asking you to do a what if on that.
Yeah.
But then, Mark, see, listen, y'all gonna look back on this video and say Wholesome gave Mark his entire off-season series that would boom. You could even go in because you have all these different channels, and you talk about driving traffic to these channels. You could do a series of what if that's particular to that channel, those teams. What if for your Oregon channel, your 5-video series, what if Chip Kelly beats Auburn in the national championship? Then I mean, it could go in all that. What if
I can't think of the running back, but if he doesn't spin off, you remember that play in the championship game where he almost
called down?
Yeah.
I mean, it can. What if Pete Carroll never leaves USC? I don't know which kind of. What if, even though you're an Ohio State guy, what if JT Daniels was called not JT Daniels, JT
Barrett? Oh,
Barrett was called down.
Oh, see. This is where I say I can be neutral on these things. I tell people all the time, whether they're Ohio State fans or Michigan fans, I don't know if he made it. I don't think anybody can say whether he made it. I can't say that he made it or didn't make it.
Right.
That's the most inexact. I don't know. Can you come up with anything else that regardless of what the technology does, there's going to have to be a chip in the football to get to the point where that spot by those officials, that is still just a estimation.
Right.
Especially when dudes run out of bounds. Like, where's the ball when he runs out of bounds? You know, it's
Now, I could definitely argue based on the angle that they gave. I, for one, felt like it was obvious he was short, but
oh,
again,
okay.
I'm never rooting for Ohio State. So
I'm not, but I'm not the Ohio State fan that's pounding the table saying, "Oh, he made it for sure." He definitely. If Michigan would have been given that call, I'd still be sitting here today going, I'm not saying that Ohio State got ripped off because I don't know. I think it was extreme. It was obviously extremely close, but no, it's a great idea that you came up with. And what's funny about it is that I just came up with the idea today, and this is something similar, but it's not nearly as intriguing as what you're coming up with. But what you're throwing out there, that is a lot of work. I'm not afraid of work, but I just don't want to screw it up and post some video and people be like, well, you forgot if that
but either way, they're gonna have something to say. It's cool. That's what makes it fun, is that you are able to create a timeline based on what you view. And then you could somebody else, if they want to make another channel and do their own thing, they could do that. But I would love, because of your vast knowledge and you've been around and you've seen it, that you would be able to bring up a game I knew nothing about, like USC almost not making it, in that great moment of VY standing in front in the Rose Bowl in California, beating USC almost didn't happen. And I didn't know that. You
well,
know,
the one, if we could clone ourselves, you know what you and I should start? An NFL channel.
uh-oh. You know, I'm always down for one thing, and that's the draft. I'm always down for draft talk.
Because I can talk NFL history all day as well. And I have better knowledge of NFL history than I do college football history.
Really?
Absolutely, I do.
I did not know that. I didn't know that was your thing.
There was a point in time I could have recited every NFL playoff score in history just off the top of my head. I could tell you the score of every NFL playoff game in history. And that's not with, and I don't mean I'm wasting my time like trying to memorize it. No, they just stick.
Wow.
Anyway,
I had something like that happen because somebody asked me to rattle off the 2013 depth chart, because I was arguing that the 2013 Miami Hurricanes team was very talented. I was 21 of 22. I missed one player, the strong safety. I rolled off the entire offensive line, quarterback, four wide receivers, defensive line, linebacker core, and I missed strong safety Deion Bush, but I rolled off the entire thing.
Eric, if you're talking about the 72 Super Bowl, meaning the 72 season, Dolphins 14, Redskins 7, and that game would have been 17-0, just like the Dolphins' record 17-0. But Gario Premian had a field goal block that was taken back 41 yards for a touchdown by Mike Bass that made it 14-7. See,
that's crazy.
I'm telling you, we had one night at ESPN. We used to do this like I worked at ESPN until like 4:30 in the morning. So you can imagine there was usually a ton to do, but there'd be those nights where, you know, it's the Saturday night before the Super Bowl and there's nothing going on. And, you know, you're just watching stuff. And so people are going through debates and everything. There was one night we're sitting there at ESPN and we started doing Super Bowl trivia. And there was this dude, and we're just going, you know, there's like 8 of us just looking up on the internet every Super Bowl trivia question we can find. And I still remember the last question that somebody threw me. I had ripped off through 50 questions. And the last one somebody asked me was, they go, well, according to this site, this is the toughest Super Bowl question they have. Who's the only running back to average 10 yards per carry in a Super Bowl game? And I said, Tom Maddie, 11 carries, 116 yards, Super Bowl III. And they were like, okay.
Oh, shit.
Yeah, I love NFL history. I could watch NFL games from, you know, when I was growing up all day, all night. Love it.
That's crazy. The voice
of as much as you love the NFL, we could do a great NFL channel, because you would bring the X's and O's. You'd say, you know, they slanted, they did, and I'd bring in, you know, my knowledge, and oh yeah, we'd run a great NFL channel.
That's crazy. The voice
Come
of
on,
college
Eric.
football is
Eric's
secretly
throwing me
the
like
NFL.
layups. These are like softballs, Eric. Are you kidding me? The Chiefs head coach in the first Super Bowl was Hank Stram. It was 35-10. It was 14-10 at halftime. Willie Wood had a 55-yard pick six in that game. Len Dawson went 16 for 27 for 212 yards passing. Bart Starr was the MVP, 16-23, 250 yards, Super Bowl one. Yes, Max McGee had 7 catches, 138 yards, 2 touchdowns in Super Bowl one. I love NFL history. Yeah.
Okay. I'll throw one at you.
Yeah.
Right.
Now, I'm going to say this before you ask your question. I'm nowhere close to as sharp as I used to be years ago because over the last 10 or 15 NFL seasons, I just watch the games. I don't know the stats and everything like I used to. But anyway, fire. Go ahead.
Okay. I think people are gonna. I'm not gonna give you a hint, so I'll just shut up.
Okay.
Who is the NFL leading solo tackler in the playoffs?
Oh, in the playoffs. In the playoffs. So this is obviously somebody who played a ton in the playoffs. Well, the first name that comes to mind without even thinking about it is Ray Lewis.
Jesus Christ.
He immediately came to mind, Ray Lewis.
Yo, okay, that's scary.
Yeah, you got to find somebody who played in the playoffs a lot, and then you got to find somebody who is great, obviously, and then number 3, who played in a defense that everything funneled to him so he could be great. And that's Ray Lewis.
186 solo tackles.
Ooh.
Ray Lewis.
I'm only going to tell one more story, or I could sit here all night. But when we were at ESPN, for a couple of years, I was on the team that interviewed people that applied to jobs, and I was on the interview team, and you would ask them all these operational questions. It was all about, obviously, operational stuff. But near the end of it, this guy was a little cocky. And he kept telling us, I know more about sports than anybody, and you can ask me anything, and I know more about the NFL than anybody, all this other stuff. So we're at the end of the interview, and I said, I forget his name, but I said, you've been saying that you know more about the NFL than anyone. And he's like, yeah, absolutely. And I said, okay. I said, what if this job came down to you answering one question about the NFL? And if you got it right, you got the job. If you get it wrong, you don't get the job. Would you be willing to make that gamble? And he's like, yeah, absolutely. I said, okay. I said, last play of the 2000 Super Bowl, Titans, Rams. I said, last play of the game, there's a pass that's completed down to the 1 yard line. Famous play, tackled at the 1, game over. Rams beat the Titans. I said, who threw the pass, who caught the pass, and who made the tackle?
Well, I know Kurt Warner threw the pass, and I knew there was a linebacker.
Titans.
I'm going to say Bruce.
No. Hang on, Wholesome One. It was the Titans going for the tie. So the Titans had the ball, not the Rams.
Oh, wait, that wasn't the final play?
The final play, no, you're thinking of the Kurt Warner pass to Isaac Bruce to give them the lead.
Yeah, with the number 52 linebacker that made the tackle.
Yeah, you're switching the teams. It was the Rams who had the lead. The Titans had the ball and threw the ball down to the 1.
Oh, okay. You got me. Go ahead.
Steve McNair threw the pass. Kevin Dyson made the catch. Mike Jones made the tackle, 52 for the Rams at the 1.
Wow.
There you go.
Some people are there kidding. Okay.
McNair, Dyson.
I mean, Mark, it is. I guess you could go so many different directions, and that's what makes what if fun, but also a little. It can get really trippy. Like one of my biggest things is in 2003, the Baltimore Ravens pick that they traded away went on to be Do you know who that is? It was
Okay. Who did they trade it to? Do you
the
know?
New England Patriots in the 2004
Oh,
NFL draft.
in the 04 draft for the Patriots?
Yep.
Traded from the Ravens to the Patriots. Patriots picked in 04. I'm going to go with Vince Wilfork.
Yeah. Yeah. Vince Wilfork. Jesus Christ. Yeah, Vince Wilfork. And one of my biggest what ifs in NFL is what if Vince Wilfork goes to the Baltimore Ravens with the pick that we traded to, especially because Saragusa was in the last year of his contract, and you could have switched out Saragusa for basically a smaller version of him that was a little bit more athletic. You could have had Big Vince protecting Ray and Ed over behind. Then the next draft, the Ravens trade from number 4 to number 10. Do you know who that number 4 overall pick was, Mark?
In 05? Who did they who picked it?
Browns.
Okay. I got to shut off the chat. I don't want anyone looking this up. Okay, I'm going to scroll it down so I can't see it. The Browns in 05 took Braylon Edwards, didn't they?
Okay, yeah. So it might have been maybe another year. But there was a time, no, that same year, the Ravens traded out twice. So they had a pick. That must have been the same season. So they had an opportunity to go in 04. They had the 4th overall pick and the 26th overall pick. They traded that 4th overall pick for 2 future first rounders and then traded out of the 26th overall pick on the day of the draft with the Patriots. But the Browns did go and 4th overall in the 2004 draft. Who was that?
I think it was Braylon Edwards. Wasn't it?
No. I thought
Michigan?
that was the next year.
05? Braylon Edwards. What's that?
Kellen Winslow Jr.
Oh, okay. Kellen Winslow.
So whatever year that was, could be 04, 05, one of those two. But either way, because it was this article that
I think Winslow was in 04 because Braylon Edwards played his last season at Michigan in 04, and he was the Browns' first-round pick in 05. But anyway, okay, Kellen Winslow. Gotcha.
So it was this big article that said top 10 guys that could have been Baltimore Ravens. One of them I read was Vince Wilfork. The other one was Kellen Winslow Jr. Now, of course, it's my favorite team, so I would always want those guys from my favorite college to play for my favorite NFL team, obviously. But how different things could have been if you give, Ray Lewis and Ed Reed and that star-studded Hall of Fame loaded defense some offensive firepower where they're not losing playoff games 15-0 because the offense couldn't get anything going. But they're not losing 12-7 because they could only muster 1 touchdown on offense. Yeah. Growing up a Ravens fan was pretty rough.
Well, wholesome one, you talk about one of the great what ifs in the history of the NFL, and it's directed right toward your team. What if Art Modell, the owner of the Cleveland Browns, had gotten a lease at a stadium and all that would have been taken care of, and he didn't look to move the team, and they would have stayed in Cleveland?
Yeah.
They would have stayed in Cleveland. Ray Lewis would have gotten drafted by the Cleveland Browns, probably. And so was Jonathan Ogden, who was the Ravens' first. The Ravens selected Nazi Newsom, as you well know. They selected 2 Hall of Famers their very first draft in the first round, Ogden and Lewis. They would have been Cleveland Browns because the Browns, that was their first season in Baltimore.
Crazy.
One of the best NFL films I've ever seen was, I don't know how they did this, if they just got lucky, but they followed the Cleveland Browns during 1995, not knowing that they were going to be like,
isn't that crazy?
Going down with the franchise, and they're following Saban and Belichick and all those guys on that coaching staff. Kirk Ferentz was on a lot of great future coaches were on that staff.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
It's crazy to think. I remember watching that too. because they even had like shots in the snow of them leaving in the midnight,
Yeah.
going to Baltimore. So yeah, you're right. What if they never left? That's what I'm saying, dude. This what if thing, it's trippy, Mark. It's trippy, but it makes for amazing, amazing content. But it's trippy.
Yeah. Now, I was starting to tell you that it's funny that you bring that up because just today I came up with an idea that's not nearly as good as that or fascinating, but I still think it's a decent idea. My series was going to be called "Is This the Year?" ? So, for example, is this the year Miami wins its first ACC championship game?
Yes, it is.
Is this the year? Fill in the blank. I came up with about 20 of them. Is this the year Notre Dame wins its first major bowl since 1994?
Wait. Excuse me?
Notre Dame has not won a major bowl game since 1994, the 94 Cotton Bowl. They've lost all of them.
So why do they get like shoved down our throat so much?
Yeah, they've gotten whipped by a lot of teams in that 25, 30 years. Yeah, they're like 0-11 in BCS in New Year's 6 bowl games.
But we got to deal with them every year. What you need to say is if all the college football people that be at Bay make these folks join a conference.
Yeah,
I'm not gonna get into that.
Even
though I understand, yes, being independent, it's cool. If the teams that were on their schedule were better, I mean, USC's been down for a bit, Stanford's been down for a bit, Miami's been a little up and down. So if they were playing the teams while they were good, you could argue Notre Dame would have the hardest schedule in college football because they do go all over. It's been some really good games, but yeah. And okay, all right. Since we got time here, which conference? Because I don't know if your answer would be different. Which conference would you want Notre Dame to join, and your reasons why? And then which conference do you think would make more sense? Maybe it's the same answer for Notre Dame to join, in your opinion.
Well, I believe that if Notre Dame does join a conference, they're going to join the ACC. They already have an agreement with the ACC in football. They're already joined in every other sport. They're not going to rip out all their, unless somebody just throws them so much money, they have to go. They're already tied to the ACC. So I think that's what's going to happen. I don't think I'm biased on this point. Notre Dame playing, the only school that they have any history with in the ACC is Miami, because of what happened in the 80s. But other than that, these games that they play against Wake Forest and Georgia Tech, and I don't get it. Notre Dame, before they started doing all this with the ACC, they had 50 and 60 and 70-year series in a row with Purdue, Michigan State, and Michigan. And they're sitting right in the middle of Indiana. They belong in the Big Ten.
Yep.
They're a Big Ten football team.
Yeah, I think it makes blunt. I mean, especially from their style of play, a 3-4 scheme built from the inside out. Really good offensive lines and tight ends. That's Big Ten ball, if you ask me. Only other thing that would be different is SEC, and they definitely ain't going to the SEC. I don't think they would fit. Wouldn't make any sense. But yeah, I think they would definitely join the ACC, and hopefully they would go to the Atlantic because if they came to the Coastal, I mean, under this new regime. Let's do it. Let's go at it toe to toe. But I think it would be great if they gave the Atlantic another really good team, and it would be them and Clemson going toe to toe for the ACC, for the SEC Atlantic championship. And then they could just bring West Virginia with them, and then West Virginia could join the Coastal. And now I think college football is a little bit more in line because West Virginia having traveled 1,000 miles to their nearest game just It just doesn't make any sense. But if they were in the Virginia, the coastal on that side battling, you bring back Tech, you bring back them in Pitt, you bring back them in UVA, you bring back them in Miami, them in Louisville. It just makes a lot more sense to have that on.
I want to read Anthony's question because he is just really wants us to address this. So, Anthony, we went through this. You might have missed it about the Saban situation. So he says, Mark, what if Nick Saban was successful in the NFL as a head coach? Who do you think would become the current head coach up to this point and would have been dominating? Well, for one thing, most likely Alabama would have been through, even if they would have been good coaches, how many coaches have been around for the last 15 years? Very few. So most likely they would have had about 3 head coaches for one thing.
Right.
So who knows at this point where they would be.
Mm-hmm.
But I haven't looked into it, but I know from hearing different people talk about the subject that Rich Rodriguez was high on their list. And he had a great tenure at West Virginia, but he bombed at Michigan. So I don't know what he would have done at Bama. Because Bama was nowhere close to what they are now then.
Right.
They had just
they had a bunch of what? 4 and 8 and 5 and 7 seasons in there.
They had a lot of like back and forth. Like they had a 3 and 9. They had like Mike Shula in 05, only 2 years before Saban went 10 and 2 and won the Cotton Bowl. They were like all over the place for about 7 or 8 years.
And now they're just
a
juggernaut.
Can you imagine Alabama losing to wasn't La Tech, it was
UNL Monroe.
Louisiana. Monroe. Yeah.
But that was under Saban. That was his first year.
Yeah, that's crazy. Think about it now. Yeah.
And at home too.
Yeah.
Yeah. So and that's where, like I said, the what if thing, and I know a lot of big people are into the college football realignment conversation because that's happening back and forth. Yeah, man, y'all go ahead and hit that like button if you haven't already, man. A 2-hour live out of me and Mark. We haven't done this ever. So this was really cool. I don't have much to do. I could keep going, but I obviously know Mark is tired. He's been working all day. But
no, it's a fun conversation.
It's really cool, man. And it's one of those things that I get excited for because you could also make it so specific to these fan bases. I mean, you got over 30 channels. That things could really go. I mean, one of the biggest ones, I know a lot of people are going to not like me for saying this, but what if Tallahassee had a kicker? Like imagine how different everyone is viewed, even their pair, because the people they played in Miami. What if, Bobby Bowden probably has about 3 or 4 national championships because they were arguably the best team, if not one of the best teams. And then they just couldn't get over the Miami hump for a bit. What if they had a kicker?
That's the school that for about 15 years would have benefited the most from a playoff.
Yeah, they would have always been in it, huh?
Pretty much. Yeah, I know that they've got that streak of Final Four finishes, like top 4 finishes. But what gets lost there is there are a few seasons that they only finished in the top 4 because they won their bowl game to get them into the top 4. So they wouldn't have necessarily been there when the playoff was selected. But yeah, they would have been in the playoffs a ton of times between, for that 15 years or so. Yep.
I think that's the biggest juggernaut answer right there is what if since 1960, especially because someone like you could go down that AP and you could probably even remember who were the Final Four teams in 1961. I don't know. I can't tell you that. But especially because back then you didn't have an actual national championship game. It was just based on after all the bowls who had the most points, right?
It was just an AP and UPI poll. Yeah. That's all it was. Who would have wanted a playoff
on his head. What if the BCS still existed?
Yeah.
To this day. You know, how funny would that would be crazy. Because I mean, a couple of those Alabama national championships aren't in existence because if they didn't win the SEC and didn't even play in the playoffs, just like what was that year? 18? They didn't win the
17.
SEC.
Yeah, 17.
Yeah, they didn't play in the SEC championship, but they still made the playoffs as a 4th seed. You know, it can get real fancy. I think one of the biggest ones would be Oregon. I think Oregon's would take off. What if Oregon beat it? What if they beat Auburn? What if they beat Ohio State in the national championship? You do like a 2 or 3 year pattern after that. But yeah, dude, what if series? I'm definitely going to start it on the Miami channel for.
Yeah, I look forward to that.
Because I mean,
check those out.
I don't even know if it'll be top 5. It may turn out to be top 10, 15 once you start opening that Pandora's box. Because, but like you said, I think what you're gonna have to do is put out a video that explains these are the rules for the Mark Rogers TV What If series. Before you hit the comment section with, oh, you forgot about this guy. What if Purdue ends up beating this because they made the kick? Whatever. We're going to focus on 3 major points from this season for you. For me, it's probably going to be outcome of games. Just like I said, the Ohio State, the fumble that wasn't a fumble against Notre Dame, certain coaches staying. That'll be what I focus on. But for you, as much of a big, broader conversation, it would be bomb diggity, man.
Absolutely. Good stuff. All right, man. Well, I hope everybody appreciates the time here that the Wholesome One invested tonight. And please hit the like button. If anybody's listening to us, whether it's the 154 right now or the 2,000 to 4,000 that are going to watch this video and you're not subscribed to the Wholesome Ones channel, please get over there and subscribe and check out the content.
Hey, I appreciate it, man. Thank you all so much, man. It's a great show as always. It's always a blessing to have this crop out for you. Did Cam come on last night? I didn't get the notification.
Yes, sir. He did.
Okay, cool. I'll be #rewatch squad on that. Always supporting the Miami Hurricanes and always supporting Mark Rogers, except for the Tallahassee videos. I'm not watching those, but I watch your Oregon stuff. I watch your SC stuff. I watch your Big Ten stuff with the Notre Dame guy, not Notre Dame, Michigan guy, that kind of stuff. I watch that. It's cool. It's always nice to get a different insight. And the call-in shows. Dog, you gotta be subscribed to Mark Rogers TV for the call-in shows. They just, as much as you think the show would be, he might have one structure, but then it just goes in like 80 different directions. And then one caller sparks the next caller and be like, no, that guy's crazy. It's really entertaining. And it makes for amazing content. When you all are heavily participating in the show, it makes it a lot easier because, I mean, we're just men staring into a camera, talking to a camera. If it's not for you all there who are in the chat, who are #rewatch squad, who are calling in, it really helps the show go in a really nice direction. So we definitely thank you all.
All right, guys, we're going to be back here with the Wholesome One next Thursday, God willing, at 8 Eastern. But there's a reason you hit the bell for the notifications after you subscribe. Sometimes we got to switch it up. So lock it in here and over at the Wholesome One's channel as well. Wholesome One, appreciate it.
It's always go Canes.